All right, Jack, I think this one's for you. It comes from Rachel in Fresno. She asks, I heard you say that the agriculture market is huge. How do we get farmers interested in compost from cities?
Well, I think that's a very good question. I think San Jose provides a really good example where they've developed a program called Agriculture in Partnership with San Jose. And they've worked closely with farms, often starting out on a trial basis, because farmers are used to certain practices they've used for a long time and maybe are wary of trying new products. And so once they try those products on a limited pilot basis and it works for them, then they can slowly expand those products. And working with farmers on the amounts of application that are appropriate for the particular product. And there are really good resources that are available. Different organizations such as the U.S. Composting Council on their website, compostingcouncil.org. Also, the California Integrated Management Board has good resources in terms of compost use. So I think it's establishing relationships with farmers and working with them in terms of what their needs. A lot of what compost marketing is finding markets and finding out what they need. Now, not every use or market is the same, so they do different things in terms of a compost product.
Okay, I think this one's also for you, Jack. It comes from Richard, and he wants to know, in Pebble Beach, is there any evidence or opinion that curbside recycling programs that allow commingling of non-green recyclable materials in one container are more successful than curbside programs that require several or more containers? Did you get that?
I think so. The question really is about commingling recyclables versus having different containers.
Right.
Yeah. I think that is a good question. There is an increasing trend that we're seeing around the country of commingling recyclables, and the advantage of that is that it's a lot more convenient for residents instead of having to separate out their paper and their bottles and cans and maybe even more streams. But putting everything in one container, it's usually a larger container. We're going from the 16-gallon blue bin to a large 32-gallon bin. So it's a lot more convenient. You have more participation, higher capture materials. The downside is that there is more processing, and the concern has been contamination of material, particularly paper with broken glass. But we have found by collecting material, even in packers, if you don't pack it too much, you get minimum glass breakage, and the processing technology is there at a marginal additional cost that overall we find it to be well worthwhile in terms of the additional recovery of recyclables and able to market those materials to market. So commingled recycling seems to be working if you have a proper processing, and I think it's an increasing way of the future for increased diversion.
More convenient for folks and more willing to do it.
Definitely.
But having a processor is really key that can take the material commingled and effectively process and recycle it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I think, additional residue is really to be expected, I think. Anytime that you're commingling materials, you might have people putting garbage in there. But I think I would agree with you that the convenience to the residents makes it well worth it.
This one says, this is Brent in San Jose, and he asks, my contract with my hauler has a 10% franchise fee. How can I get one of those great incentive programs going? Can I try that, Claire? Sure. I think that it's really important, first of all, to find out what your goals are, what you want to do, and I encourage you to look at some of the other jurisdictions that have implemented these types of programs to see what they have done. What's really important is trying to establish what your goals are, establish your priorities, and if those priorities and goals are in your contract, then you can set up a very effective incentive system. There is a wide variety of different types of franchise incentive programs out there. So I encourage you first to look at the case studies, to find out what other communities have done so that you can tailor it to your community, because one size does not fit all when it comes to incentives. Okay. This is from Ellen in San Diego, and I hope I can get this question out correctly. It says, could AB 939 fees to help fund staff and planning departments to do the things you were talking about in reviewing EIRs and drafting permits? I think there's a question in there.
Sorry, can
you repeat that? Sure. Could AB 939 fees to help fund staff in planning departments to do the things you're talking about in reviewing EIRs and drafting permits? Do you get the gist of where we're going with that?
Yes, a number of jurisdictions do use their AB 939 fees to do that.
So it's definitely a yes answer. Good. Just a simple yes? It's a simple yes. Yes. Okay, Jill in San Francisco says, how can communities enforce their contamination standards? Do we not pick up yard waste or recyclables that are not perfect when we set them out at the curb?
Well, I would say that is part of an education outreach effort that communities need to do. It's important in the beginning of a program to make really clear what's acceptable and not acceptable, and to leave notes at the curbside bins, and even not collecting material. You have to decide, though, what's an acceptable level of contamination. You know, if it's just a little piece of plastic in a yard bin, that might be fine. But if it's yard trimmings totally wrapped in plastic with other garbage, that's totally not acceptable. So you have to determine what is acceptable and be really clear in your communication, and to enforce it to a certain degree, including, you know, not collecting it. Because residents, if you're going to collect it as trash, then residents should be paying for that.
I see. So if a hauler noticed that their bin was contaminated, they could just leave it there?
Yeah, if they could leave it there, and then maybe it gets collected as trash, and residents are assessed with a fee. I think financial incentive is really important, both for residents and for businesses. And residents can save money by going with a smaller container or less frequent service. But if they're not participating, or if they're contaminating it, then they should have to pay for that as well.
Okay, we have a caller on the line from Valhalla. Hi, can you introduce yourself?
Hello.
Hi there, we can hear. What's your name?
I'm Sheldon Malice.
Hi, Sheldon. What's your question today?
I'm calling from Westchester Community College in Valhalla, New York.
Wow, okay.
We have a recycling program here on campus. We'd like to know what California colleges are implementing recycling programs and how effective they have been.
Okay, the question is what California colleges are implementing recycling programs and how effective have they been? He's calling from a college in New York.
Sure. There are a number of colleges in California and universities that have implemented aggressive diversion programs. We mentioned the University in San Francisco actually does food waste diversion on campus. We actually have staff at the Waste Management Board that could give you a lot more detailed information on college diversion activities. We could give you a comprehensive list of all of the colleges in California that have diversion programs and the things that they're doing. We also have a number of technical assistance resources to help you. Actually, in New York, if you'd like, we can send you those materials. Recently, the California State Legislature did pass a bill called AB 75, which requires state agencies to meet state-mandated diversion goals. And the colleges in California do fall under that legislation. So that's very exciting for us. It gives a little bit of mandate for the colleges to ensure statewide everyone is doing their part to assist jurisdictions in meeting their 939 goals. And we'd be happy to send you more information on AB 75. As far as you can contact the board, and if you contact our Office of Local Assistance, which will be displayed later, we'll be able to follow up with you and get you that information.
I know many colleges in California have departments of environmental studies, and so I imagine those folks are keenly interested in the recycling programs on their particular campuses.
Absolutely, and there are so many colleges and universities that are doing great programs. From the north part of the state, Humboldt University has always been very environmentally active. We mentioned San Francisco. Going down south, down at San Diego State, they have a wonderful program. So really, our colleges and universities are doing a great job.
Okay, we've got another question. This one comes from Ann in San Francisco. I heard a lot of ways to deal with businesses. What should we do first? Incentives, policies, mandates? What's the best way to deal with businesses? I guess Kathy or Kara, you guys can... Anyway.
Yeah, I think I would start out by trying to assess where most of the waste is being generated. Is it from one particular industrial sector, or is it a material like mixed paper that's across sectors? And I think it's important that when you're trying to implement a program that you actually might consider several programs. Like, for example, City of Fremont, we have a mixed paper recycling program, but we also complement that with C&D recycling programs, and we've done quite a bit of work with our Unified School District there. So I think the first step is really trying to identify who's generating the material and then trying to figure out how to capture that material. Okay, I don't know if you want to add.
Yeah, I would agree. And with the communities that we work with, we first look at who their largest generators are. And based upon that, we set up a plan to help the jurisdictions go out and conduct waste assessments with their businesses. It's very important. What we're finding actually in California is a number of the large businesses are actually implementing environmental programs because it makes sense, both economically, environmentally, and they want to be a good citizen in the community. It's the right thing to do. It's also important once you know what you want to target to develop a plan and then to bring all the key players together to implement that plan, which includes getting your haulers in and on that project.
Okay, that's all the time we have for panel one in the question and answer period, though you got some terrific questions. We want to thank you for sending those in, and thank you for your very interesting answers. It's inspiring to see the knowledge and expertise in the state being applied to making waste diversion work. I hope that you've enjoyed the innovations highlighted in our first panel. Now, we had the opportunity earlier to talk with State Senator Byron Scher about AB 939. The following video is our question and answer session with the Senator.
What was the driving force behind AB 939?
In the 1980s, we thought we had a crisis in our landfills. We were sending more solid waste, more than any other state, to our landfills, and we thought we were running out of space. It was very difficult to site new landfills, and we knew we had to do something.
What are the greatest achievements of AB 939?
After the enactment of 939 and our success in diverting solid waste away from the landfills, we have seen a tremendous reduction in the use of electricity and reductions in CO2 emissions. We have seen saving 600 million trees, the size of Yosemite, by using recycled newsprint and paper products. Maybe most importantly, we have seen the growth of an industry dedicated to recycling, some 34,000 new jobs and over $1.5 billion money into our economy.
How did you envision local governments achieving their 50% waste diversion goals?
We started with our fingers crossed. We hoped that the local government would see that we were trying to save their landfill crisis, and they did. In most parts of the states, they embraced this program, went to work on studying what makes up their waste stream, and then trying to figure out the best strategies to reduce those components. And for the most part, they have succeeded. We reached the 25% waste reduction benchmark in 1995, and we're well on our way to achieving the 50% reduction that's required this year, 2000.
Have there been any surprises about what has been implemented?
The surprises, I think, were mostly about how much the program was embraced by those who were affected by it. Certainly the waste hauling industry, prior to this law, regarded themselves as trash collectors and garbage disposers. After this law was well underway, they now regard themselves as recyclers. I remember well a meeting I went to, they were wearing lapel pins, which designated themselves as recyclers, and then I knew we were home free on this program. But even more importantly, the surprises have been how much it's been accepted by the community, how they want to participate in this program, how they have made these curbside recycling programs succeed. That's what it takes to divert trash away from the landfill.
What do you think are some of the most important materials and programs for local governments to focus on now to achieve their waste diversion goals?
There's still a lot of work to be done. The hardest part is the last 10% reduction till we reach 50%. We can do more in construction and demolition materials, organic materials, getting businesses to get involved because they generate a tremendous amount of packaging materials. All of that can be used to reach this 50% reduction goal.
How do you think local governments should work with businesses in their communities to expand recycling?
Like all successful programs, this has to be a partnership. You don't do it with the stick, you do it with the carrot. The carrot here is obvious. These are cost reductions for business, and that means we have to educate business about how much can be saved and how they can do it efficiently, to instead of paying to have this material hauled away to the dump, rather utilize it and be paid for recyclable material.
Do you think local governments can do more to expand markets?
Local governments and state government. This is really the great challenge still in this program. It's no point in asking business and residential customers to separate out the recyclables and then have no place to use them productively, so that ultimately it goes to the landfill anyway. So yes, much can be done, but we need to tell people how best to do it, and people are ready to respond.
We appreciate the Senator's leadership and commitment to the environment.